Welcome to the Club 21 meeting for September 24th. Our speaker today is Donna Meador. Did I spell it?
Meador. It's better with Meador, Michael.
Meador. Okay. Donna Meador. Yeah. Should ask it before we start recording next time. She is a certified women's empowerment coach specializing in women's dating again and a legal advocate, a LegalShield advocate and best-selling author. I met her through my networking channels out in the world there. She has an incredible story, and I thought it would be great for her to share it here in the Conference 21 Club 21. So Donna, welcome to the club, and take it away.
Thank you, Michael. It is so great to be here, and I'm just so thrilled to share my story with your community, because I'm a bit obsessed. I'm obsessed about relationships. And yes, you know, I've been a business owner. I don't even know if you and I covered this, but I've been a business owner for 13 years. And I met my late husband in 2007. We decided that he was needed to get away from his partner. And so we created a company called Sparaco Furniture Associates. And my husband was the installer. He was the brilliance behind all the installation of the cubicles in the corporate America offices. And this went on for a little while. We had this really fairy tale dating courtship. We got engaged, and then we walked smack into 2008. I know that a lot of you know exactly what I'm talking about. I would venture to say that everybody who is listening to this or even on this call today have reinvented themselves many times over at this point in time, right? So in 2008, I got hit in the face with no money coming in. Okay, nobody was caring about the offices, nobody cared about cubicles, and I lost my job, and we literally lived off credit cards for a few years before we finally figured out that we had to get out of New York. So we moved west, and we retired my husband early so that we could at least be guaranteed that the rent would be paid. And then I started trying to figure out, what am I going to do next? And it's really an interesting little story, because we think on our feet, a lot of us, and we just sort of go, okay, well, listen, the goal here is to make some money so that we can eat and pay the rent. Okay, that's like that was the goal. And we came out west, and I just thought the biggest, grandest idea I could ever have would be to become a health insurance agent, because I figured everybody needed health insurance and it would give me a residual income. And I thought that was just brilliant, quite frankly. I did not realize, and I don't know if you've never left the state that you grew up in, I don't know if you would realize that moving across your same country would create such a different culture. There would be a different culture. And moving west into Arizona was a completely different culture. I'm a New York shoot from the hip type of gal, and Arizonians are a little bit more polite. I'm doing quotes in the air because they brought up different. It's just a different temperament. And I had to adjust. And in my venture of discovering and going out networking, by the way, in various networking groups, I discovered this thing called LegalShield. And I'm just going to share for a moment that that's a legal plan, right? So, but when I looked at this plan, and I couldn't believe that I'd never heard about it before, I was dumbfounded, actually, because I had stressful pain in the neck things that I was going through in life, and I really needed help, and I didn't want to go to my family. I didn't want to go to my friends. I didn't want to go to social media. And I thought, well, what a great idea. I could talk to attorneys. So I did that. And just by using the plan in the course of 3 months, I was $3,000 ahead just because I used it. I wasn't even selling it. So I switched over. I left health insurance, got into LegalShield, and by the way, the economy started raising. So my furniture company was moving along, and LegalShield, I was going out there and educating people with LegalShield, and I was just such a happy little camper. And in 2016, my husband got sick and he passed away. And I was left in a place of disparity. Okay. I was left in a place of trying to figure out my next step. And as I am always very honest and clear about my journey, it turned out that I had to venture into unwanted, undesirable waters, which meant I had to close my company with the Sparaco Furniture Associates. I was the president of the company, but I was not the brains behind the company. Okay. So I closed the doors and I focused entirely on LegalShield. But in that journey, I forgot to mention that I also wrote a book about dating. Where is it? I have it right here somewhere. And what's so fascinating about this book, because I'm obsessed with relationships. So to me, this all ties together, right? This all ties together. Not to many people, like I had to really connect the dots for people. So I wrote this book in 2004. I dedicated it to my husband. I published it in 2014. Now we're walking, we've got 2008 behind us, right? I'm in Arizona. I'm standing up in my networking groups talking about LegalShield and relationships through dating. So people came to know me that I had this sort of dating thing going on. They couldn't quite make the connection, but to me, it was clear. It was about self-empowerment. It was about all the women that I met when I went out dating in my early 40s who didn't understand their value and their self-worth. And your brand follows you. Your brand, if you're obsessed enough with it, it will show up everywhere. And I was obsessed with empowering people. And then it segued to women. And what's really interesting is after my husband departed and I crashed and burned for a little while, and then I stood back up, I went on Facebook Live and I had been giving dating tips before he got sick. So I continued to give my dating tips and people were astounded. They said, how is it? What are you doing? Like, how is it you can even be talking to us right now? Because you're in such despair. But I was literally, and as a result, created this joy dial because I was literally talking to mainly women, but all around the world of how to set your dial to joy in the midst of heartache and pain and disparity. I mean, how do you do that? But we have all gone through that. I'm not the only person who ever lost a spouse. We've all suffered loss in some way. We've all suffered, oh my gosh, I can't even think. I don't have children, but I can't even imagine losing a child. I think those are the two deepest cuts. Losing a significant other and a child really is a cut and really a stab in the heart. But here's the thing. I had somebody come to me and they said to me, I've got two opposite stories for you, which is amazing. One person came to me and said, after I managed to get through a year of grieving, said to me, don't worry, the second year is worse. I was like, what? No, that cannot be. I refuse to accept that. Okay. And so I set my dial to joy, and my whole social media at that time was Daily Dose of Donna with the letter A. Daily Dose of Donna. If you hashtag it on Facebook, you'll come up. It's public. It's my entire journey of me walking through how did I look for love where it was and not where it wasn't? How did I look for my late husband where he was and not where it wasn't? How did I manage this to continue to move forward at a time that was so painful? And people from all around the world started following me. I created this following, like it was amazing. And what's so astounding to me is when Pietro passed away in 2016, it was in November actually. And when somebody reached out to me a few months later and on Facebook and said, how are you doing? And my answer was always the same. I said, every day a little better, every day a little better. And they said, well, we're wondering when you're going to come back. And I said, back to what? I hadn't realized I created this following. And they said, well, we don't know what you're going to do. And I said, do about what? And again, it just didn't click. So I started to realize people were waiting for me to come back. And my very first video back after the departure of my late husband, I did in silence and I held up papers, right? You've seen people do that. It got over 1,000 views in one day. Like people were plugged in, okay? And so now I started to think, what am I going to do with this? Like, how do I monetize this? How do I turn this into a way to help people, but also help myself, right? Because if you can't help yourself, you can't help others, gang, okay? That's the real. And then the opposite story on the other side of what this friend had told me, a woman looked at me after I met my new husband, because I am remarried now. I did not expect that. I was not looking for that. By the way, when I went out dating again, I went and got my own book and refreshed my memory. I figured it worked so good the last time. I might as well figure it out this time. And I did. And I met my now husband 6 months after I started to date. And she turned to me, and she was one of my LegalShield colleagues. And she said, girl, how you find love 2 times in a row? And I knew it wasn't a secret. That's the thing, you guys. I knew it wasn't a secret. I knew I had a formula. I knew I understood how to help women fix their pickers or look for love in all the right places. You know, when they turn to me and say there ain't no good men out there, I disagree. There are many, many good men, great men out there. You only need one, okay? So this is the process. And I wrote the book originally because I just wanted women to enjoy the journey of dating, regardless of the outcome. And I'm going to give you 2 tips today that are so simple, you have to write them down because you will forget them. Now, the women, when you're on a date, there's only one thing you should be thinking about. You got to write this down. There's only one thing. Now, men, you're probably thinking about something else, okay? But women, there's only one thing you should be thinking about when you are on that very first date. And it is, write this down. Do you want to go on a second date? Okay. Do you want to go on a second date? Now, again, men, you might have a different thought in mind. We're not going there. My focus is women because I'm a woman. I get it. Like I sort of know what that road. Listen, I picked out curtains. I had myself in a wedding dress walking down the aisle. I mean, like all the fantasy happens, right? This is the one. But guess what? There's only one question you should be asking yourself. Do I want to go on a second date with this person? Okay. Now, as you're moving along and you think things are roly-poly, I'll tell you, you will know if you understood the facts about dating. For me, the facts. You will find out if this is a right person for you to be with within 4 dates. And I'm going to tell you a 3-letter word right now. And again, you got to write it down because it's so simple, you'll forget it. That after your date, number 1 or number 2, doesn't matter. And you are so stoked and you get on the phone with your girlfriend or your BFF or whoever that is, and you start telling them how wonderful this person is. And they say, and then you hear yourself say, but. That 3-letter word, but, is your telltale sign that this is probably not the person for you. Why? Not because I'm telling you, because you're telling you. This is your subconscious going, yeah, you know what? I like this person, but if only they did this, like you're trying to now change them. And the goal at this stage of the game, and I'm assuming that everybody listening on this call, our mature audience, okay? And I say that lovingly. I mean that like people dating in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, okay? These are the people go, you're no longer, you now understand you can't change anybody, but this is a time to look for somebody that you want to be with, you guys, not that you are trying to change them. So if you hear that word, but, B-U-T, then you have to know, you've got to ask yourself a question. Do you like that person the way they are? Okay. Now, one thing I am also going to share about LegalShield, because this is incredible. As a widow who lost her husband in Mexico, by the way, Pietro was getting immunotherapy and he was in Mexico when he passed away. I had a cancer policy on him and it took me a few months to realize that I actually had this policy. So I submitted it and it came back denied. It took me a few more months before I actually looked at that piece of paper on my very messy desk, because you can imagine there were a lot of things that weren't moving forward during this time. And when I realized that I had this denial claim, I thought to myself, why am I not calling my attorney? You know, if you're a member with LegalShield, I hope this will inspire you to use your plan. There's no copay. So I said, I always tell my members, use the plan. You're not legal counsel, way cheaper, by the way, to keep you out of trouble than to get you out of trouble. Okay. So I picked up the phone and talked to my attorney about this denial claim. And all I said was, what are my options? Do I have rights? I don't know. What are my options? Do I have any? Okay. Again, these are key words for you guys. If you're a member, that's what you want to use. And when I talked to the attorney, he asked to see the contract. And I said, Rick, I'm embarrassed. I'm a mature woman. I know how to read a contract. And he said, Donna, and this changed my outlook on life forever. He said, a contract is never about what it says. It's only about what it means. So I sent him the contract. They wrote a letter for me to that insurance company. And 10 days later, I got $13,500 in my bank account. And I cry because I think of all the people who would never have spoken to an attorney to find that out. You would have lost the money. I got denied. Now it got reversed. So that's why I'm an advocate of empowerment. People say, well, how does dating and legal access go hand in hand? I said, you know how many women I run into have maybe, you know, baby drama, spousal drama, child support. There's all, and a lot of men too, by the way, come to me and say, my ex keeps taking me back to court. This is paramount. This is part of the relationship plan for people, because you want to update your wills. And by the way, I'm on my third one at no extra cost. So I'm obsessed. I want to go out and inspire people to date, to enjoy the process of dating. There's so many fun experiences to have. And as we get older and we go through life more, we start to realize, don't we, that life has to be fun now. You know, when you have had the heartache and you've gone through stuff, I always say now, if I'm not confusing my family, I'm doing it wrong. Okay. Like you want to be true to yourself, and you want to be true to the people around you, and you want to be a greatest supporter you can. I love that Michael Whitehouse does this program, because he likes to bring the people together, right? He's the guy who knows the guy. He's the guy who knows the gal. Okay. He brings it together. I love that. And my goal and again, it's interesting, the departure of my late husband catapulted me forward in getting even more intent on getting on stages and teaching others how to set their dial of joy in the midst of adversity. And so I'm like a complete package, Michael. Again, thank you again for having me here. I hope that I have satisfied everybody's curiosity about what's the only thing you should be thinking about when you're on your first date. And that 3-letter word, I hope you wrote down, because you'll forget it, that word but, man, you're thinking about other butts, but this but is really important. And if it's in your vocabulary when you're talking to your BFF, just understand you're just not on the same page. Okay. And Michael, I'm turning it back to you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. That was great. Now I love that concept. That butt concept is great, because there's, I often tell people in relationships, if they're having trouble in the first few months, just get out. It's not getting better.
Yeah.
It doesn't get better in the first few months.
No, it doesn't get better. But you know what? And what's really interesting, and I've had people say to me, oh my goodness, I think I can apply that to my business, to my prospects too. Yes, absolutely. If there's a but at the end of a sentence, then you're trying to figure it out. And it's really not supposed to be that hard. Dating's supposed to be fun. And so is business, right, Michael?
Yep, that's true. I love it. Well, thank you very much for being on here. And for those of you watching on YouTube, there should be links down below there. So check those out. And of course, the Club 21 meets at every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern, and conference21.com is where you can sign up to get the links and become a member.